So in the previous video, we saw that yes, we can create individual objects that contain properties or data along with functionality, but this is kind of a huge pain if we need this object pattern in more than one particular instance. Here I have two triangles, lots of duplicated code. If I need 100 or 1,000 triangles, or if I was making a user object and I needed 10,000 users, this is just not a good approach. So we have alternatives, and the most important, most popular alternative is to use JavaScript classes. So a lot of you are probably familiar with the class keyword. This will likely be recap. Some of you, though, may not be familiar with how classes actually work behind the scenes, which is what we'll cover towards the end of this section. So you may want to check that out even if you're already comfortable working with classes, because the class keyword, this keyword right here, was not original to JavaScript. It wasn't part of the early versions of JavaScript. It was added in ES 2015. It's some syntactic sugar, and we'll learn what it does under the hood eventually. Okay, so classes allow us to extract a pattern. We can create a blueprint or a recipe that combines functionality, different methods, with data, and we'll give it a name like triangle or user, dog, whatever we want, some name that we can then use to generate instances of that recipe or that pattern. We define the blueprint, and then we can create objects based off of that blueprint. This class is called triangle, and it has two functions. We'll learn more about the syntax in a bit in this video and the next video, but it's the same getArea, getHypotenuse that we're putting in our POJOs, our plain old JavaScript objects. The difference is that it's not really in an object. These methods are in a class, which itself is just a simple blueprint that we then can instantiate a new instance of using the new keyword. So this says, all right, this is a description of the class blueprint for triangle. Every triangle has getArea and getHypotenuse. That itself is not useful until we instantiate a new triangle using the new keyword with the class name and parentheses. We can save that returned object. It will make us an object. You can think of this as essentially a factory to generate triangle objects. When I use new triangle, it makes me a new triangle object that has access to getArea and getHypotenuse. Then I can do things like set the A property, set the B property, and call getArea and call getHypotenuse. So I'll just paste this in over here. We'll take a look. Triangle itself is a class, but as soon as I call new triangle, it returns to me an object. Now this object is not that useful at the moment because this object does not have an A, it does not have a B, right? So if I call new triangle, I'll save it to a variable called first try. Make sure I add those parens there. First try does have access to getArea, but I get not a number. And the reason for this is that A and B don't exist in first try. We will learn how to remedy this, or an easier way to remedy this, in the next video. But we can at least see we do have access to these methods, getArea, getHypotenuse, because we define this pattern. And now I can make 1,000,000 objects, well, let's say 10,000 objects, all using new triangle. Each one of those objects gets access to these methods. The reason I'm getting not a number is because this is undefined right here. This .a is undefined. This .b is undefined. If you multiply undefined by undefined, we're going to end up with not a number. We divide by 2, that's still not a number. Fortunately, I can just go manually set first triangle or first try.a to be 3, first try.b to be 4. If I look at my first try object, it now has an A and B property. And if I call getArea or getHypotenuse, it actually works. All right, so let's try making another one. I'm going to go with, second try equals new triangle. Again, I'm telling JavaScript, hey, you know that blueprint we set up for the triangle class? Let's make a new instance from that blueprint. Let's actually create an object that follows this pattern. So that gives me a new object, totally separate and distinct from the first one, but it has a getArea and getHypotenuse method that it gets access to. And then I can go ahead and set secondTry.a, let's do 5, secondTry.b will be 12, and then I can do secondTry.getArea, getHypotenuse, completely different result, of course, from firstTry.getHypotenuse, because they have different values for a and b. Right? If we look at first try, we have 3 and 4, and if I look at second try, we have 5 and 12. But they share this functionality. Okay, so that's the basic idea of a class. Now we have more to learn if you're not familiar with classes, but that's the basic concept. You define a pattern or a blueprint, a recipe, whatever you want to call it, that itself doesn't really do anything until you instantiate new instances of that class using the new keyword. So new triangle in this case. And we'll see a lot of other examples if you're sick of triangles. We can add and look at arbitrary properties, which is exactly what we did here. We took the second try and added an a property, set it to 5. The this keyword, and this is important, does not refer to the class. It refers to the particular instance of the class, the particular triangle object. So in this case, when I call firstTry.getHypotenuse, inside of that method, this refers to first try. So firstTry.a, firstTry.b. When I call it on second triangle, or second try, in getHypotenuse, the keyword this.a refers to the a value on the second try object. They're all distinct objects. They all have the same pattern, but they are distinct objects, and the keyword this refers to the particular instance of this class. It does not refer to the class itself. All right, a couple of other quick notes. It's very common and conventional to upper camel case your class names. We camel case variable names in JavaScript, but we don't use an uppercase letter for the first letter unless it's a class. And this is just a clear indication to someone that they're looking at a class, that they're, instantiating a class. It avoids confusion because now we know for sure there's a difference between triangle, which is likely a variable, like new triangle, const triangle. This would be a good variable name here. This is a good class name. We know it's a class. It starts with a capital T. It would be confusing otherwise. So that's just a pattern that we always follow, but it's not a rule as far as the syntax of JavaScript. A triangle itself is still just going to be an object. So if I do something like type of second try, it doesn't say triangle, it's still just an object. It happens to follow the pattern of this class called triangle, but behind the scenes it's still just a regular object in JavaScript. There is a way to determine if an object is an instance of a particular class using instance of. Now you may have seen instance of before because I can do things like this. 1, 2, 3, instance of array. That's true. Is it an instance of number? That's false. So I can do the same thing. Is my second try object, remember this is what it looks like, is my second try an instance of triangle? Yes, it is. Just remember type of is never going to tell you triangle, it's just going to give you object if you try it on an instance of the triangle class. So if you're feeling shaky about this stuff, if it's all new, we have more to cover in the next video and a couple of examples that will help solidify it. But the idea, again, is just to define a blueprint, some sort of recipe that says, here's what a triangle looks like, or here's what a user looks like, here's what a pet looks like. They have these different methods. I'll just wrap up by adding some other piece of functionality like say hi, just a very simple function in here that returns hello from triangle. How about from a triangle? So now I need to make a new triangle. I'll call this const t, just to be lazy, is a new triangle instance. Don't forget, you need those parentheses, you need the new keyword. This makes me a new object that follows this shape, meaning it has a getArea method, getHypotenuse method, and sayHi method. So I'll call sayHi, and there we go. Every triangle has access to sayHi. Then I can set a to be a value on here. I'll just do 3 again. I'll set b to be a value, and then I can call getArea. and we get 6. Next up, we'll talk about constructor.